All right, guys, welcome to the Gap Podcast, where we discuss careers, education, lifestyle, and the journey through it all. Your host, the one and only, Gregory Behling. I just want to say we're here. We finally did it. Welcome. Thanks for listening. I'm really hoping that you guys enjoy this podcast, enjoy the format, enjoy the value that I bring, the information that people share. This is my first podcast, so it can only get better from here, or hopefully that's true. But seriously, it should be good. So give me some feedback. If you like the format, you don't like the format, different content. Leave a review, leave a comment, but only leave 5 stars. All right. So quote of the day: the option to not work is as bad as the option to work. We're just gonna call this unknown. I heard it from Alex Hormozy, which is this guy I got into pretty recently, that I love. I love all of his content. So if you haven't listened to him and you're into business or you're into sales, listen to him. He's got a great mindset. Looking to provide a platform where people can get information about everyday careers, everyday education, and everyday lifestyle. How people improve, how people, educate, formal education, self-improvement, whether you get a mentor. And there's a lot of opportunities out there that, a lot of people don't take advantage of. So hopefully we can get into it and we can show you how you can improve skill sets, how you can improve mindset, how you can improve your chance or your opportunity to make money, or just a better life. Somebody who's not necessarily cares about money, but maybe wants to eat a little bit better, have a little bit better lifestyle, better health. We're gonna get into all that on this. I really want to see how people live, how the job affects them, how their education has affected them, where they came from, where they're going, if they think they're successful, if they don't think they're successful, if they don't think they're successful, where are you going to go from here? If you don't think you're successful, all you can do is go, up, right? Go up the ladder. So how you plan on getting to where you want to be? I think it's important to state goals. I think it's important to hear people that are trying to get goals. I was recently, in kind of an interview, not really, but the guy asked me, why I wanted to join a group. And I was like, I drew upon my experience skiing. So shout out, to Dustin Norris, Jason Gross, Brandon Zarino, Ken. All those guys were instrumental to me skiing. I wouldn't be where I'm at skiing today if it wasn't for them. They've all been skiing, for years, and probably since they were like 3 or 4. And I started skiing with them, and I was like garbage, absolute garbage. I was on ski blades. I fell all the time. The thing is I never gave up. And I always was looking at these people that are really good at skiing, and it's funny because like when you talk to people, you're like, hey, are you good at skiing? And they're like, yeah, I'm good at skiing. And it's like, oh, you're like good at skiing. You're not actually good at skiing. And there's a difference. Like people that ski, probably Seven Springs Black, they're like, oh my God, I skied the Blacks. The Blacks are like blues out in Colorado. So like, you might think you're killing it in the stage you're at right now. But are you really killing it overall? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you surrounding yourself with people that are good at skiing? Or are you surrounding people that are like good at skiing? Because I noticed that like I am as good at skiing as I am today because I skied with people that were better than me. I watched how they ski. I've adopted probably their skiing style. I would say probably like 99% of how I ski today is because of who I watched when I was behind them getting, getting rooster-tailed on the way down to the mountain. They showed me everything I need. They showed me how to do it, and I'm a very visual learner, so I saw how to do it. And I knew it was possible because I saw these people doing it. So it wasn't like I got to the top of the mountain and I looked around and I'm like, who's doing this? Like, no one's doing this. This is impossible. You can't go down this mountain. Because that's how I felt when I went to my first black. You know, I got to the top of the hill and I looked down and I'm like, oh my God, this is steep. This is so steep. Like, there's no way I'm going down this. You know, but my friends went down, so I'm like, there's only one way down. And that's down this mountain. So that's just a little tidbit from the nugget from Greg Behling, you know. So, you know, really bring that mindset and that mentality into jobs and business and careers and education. Are you surrounding with the people that are complaining every day and are happy, you know, being paid minimum wage, doing the same job, not going anywhere in their lives? Or do you want to surround your people who are better than you? They're in, you know, 4, 5, 7 steps up where you don't think it's even possible for you to get there. Well, I can guarantee you, if you follow them every day or you befriend them and you tell them, I want to be like you, I want what you have. If you just watch those people, you'll get there. You know, so that's something that has come to me recently. I think networking is really important, and hopefully, you know, we can create a network and, you know, from this podcast, and you can see what's possible, what's out there. You know, I think it's really interesting because, you know, the internet has created this bubble, this space of like opportunities, that's really decentralized. And there's so many out there that you don't even know what is available, because it's evolving so fast and there's so much information out there that you would literally have to sift through, like, you know, thousands of how to make money, or, you know, best side hustles, or, you know, best education. I want to create a platform where you can just come here and you can hear from real life people that are actually doing it, have actually done it, or have a plan to do it, and can give you like that call to action of like, hey, this is what I'm doing. You know, maybe that's what you should look to do at the same time. So yeah, I think, you know, just guide people to a better future, that's prosperous, and, you know, and you end up doing what you love to do, because nobody wants to go to a job every day and do something they don't want to do. It's miserable. If you're with miserable people, or if you're at a miserable job, you know, say like you're outside in 90-degree heat and you hate the heat. Like, why would you do that job? You wouldn't want to. Same thing as if you go to a job and, you know, for an accountant, and you go thinking, okay, accountants pay good, you know, and then you find out every day you sit in a cubicle and you're literally crunching numbers all day. It's miserable if you don't want to sit in a cubicle and crunch numbers all day. But you didn't think about that when you were like in school. You were just like, I just want a job that pays good, you know, and this is what my dad told me to do, so this is what I'm going to do. So yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to create a podcast that's easy to listen to, provides you value, educates you, and, you know, opens your horizon to the world. You know, how it works. You know, if you just want to know how a certain job, career, you know, how that works and how that affects your day-to-day life. Because, you know, somebody you might not like, oh, like accounting, you know, like that doesn't affect me. Or like, oh, like pharmaceuticals, that doesn't really affect me. Like, but it does, because like at the end of the day, it breaks down to, you know, how jobs, how businesses run their business, and how that, like, you know, in the pharmaceutical aspect, you know, I'm not so jaded by prices when I see like, you know, $50 pills, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so expensive. I saw every day what goes into, you know, making sure that pill is safe to take, it's effective, and making sure that it's like, you know, not going to kill you. So like, there's a lot that goes into it, into jobs that you don't even think about, that you're never really exposed to. So yeah, hopefully we can create that, and we can give you that. I also want to go over just like job prospects, growing fields versus dying fields, certifications, formal education, self-education, and side hustles. I want to get into, you know, what you're doing on a day-to-day, you know, what you like doing, how you live your lifestyle. I think it's all super important, because, you know, if you have somebody that just likes to sit home and watch TV, you know, and, you know, they don't want to go in a big city, you know, they just want to binge Netflix all day. You know, they might not care to, go do this job that you didn't want to do because it's like, hey, I want to live in a city. Like, I want to go out every night. Like, I want to live lavishly. So, I mean, I think lifestyles do, dictate what you want to do with your life education. I mean, essentially, like, because certain jobs will create certain lifestyles. Maybe you want to get a like a second vacation house or something like a second house that's a vacation house. Well, if you have a job that you can't ever go use that vacation, then you probably don't want to get into that job because yeah, you might have the money to go get that second house, but are you going to be able to leave your job? Like, are you going to be able to go and take that vacation? So, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear experiences. I want to hear opportunities that might be outside your social bubble or my social bubble. That's related to individuals, like their life, just how they grew up, like how they got exposed to different things, and where that has brought them to in their life, and if they're aware that has brought them to like a certain situation, because if a job or like an opportunity arises and you aren't willing to take it and you aren't willing to take that risk, or you're not willing just to learn something new, that can prevent you from doing something down the road that you want to do. Some paths, it might lead to the same destination, or, you might take a path that leads to a completely different ending point, and at the end of the day, it's up to you to, choose what you want to do and what you want and, what makes you happy, so if sitting making minimum wage and Netflix, makes you happy, go do that. Like, this podcast isn't just about making money and like making the most money. It's about telling people what is out there and giving them the information so they can go and be a good investor. Because at the end of the day, if you know what you're investing in and you're getting that return and you know what that return is, then you're golden, because you're like, hey, this is what I want, this is what I'm investing in, and this is what I'm receiving. I think too often, I think our generation was kind of like duped, I guess, because when our parents were growing up, it was like, oh, college is one of those jobs. You go to college, you're going to get a job, and it's going to be XYZ. It's great. There wasn't internet at the time, so really the only way to get further in life was like college. And that kind of has changed. You can go and do so many things. You can code, you can do marketing, you can get certifications, and you don't necessarily need that formal education. So yeah, I'm kind of rambling now, but I want to get into it. Let's do this. So, what I want from this podcast, a little bit more. I want to inspire change. I want to promote growth. I want to create an environment that cultivates a better mindset. I think mindset is key. If you ever are looking at an athlete, at a businessman, I think sports are synonymous with business, and I think that's why you see so many star athletes or hardworking athletes get ahead in the business world, is because the difference between a good athlete and a great athlete is just mindset, how hard they work, what they're willing to do, what they're willing to go through to get that end result. So some mindsets elevate athletes to greatness, and others prevent them from achieving greatness. If you're a great pitcher and you don't want to work out, and by the time you turn 18 and all these other prospects have been lifting since they've been 14, and they can throw the ball 10 miles per hour faster than you, but you have a better curveball, well, you might get crushed in the major leagues if you can't throw that 10 miles per hour faster. So I think it really relates, and that's the same thing with business. People that are successful in business, they grind better, they have better mindsets. There's something that has really hit me lately is like investing in yourself. A lot of people that are successful invest in themselves early, and it pays dividends at the end. So they're not worried about making that buck now. they're going to take that buck and they're going to put it in their bank and invest in themselves. And then by the time they turn, 30, they're at a point where, they haven't made, say $100,000 more than this person. But by the time they turn 31, they have 10x their amount of income. And then, compounding, that gets 10x and that gets 10x. That's why you see all these millionaires and billionaires get to where they're at, because, they invest early on and they're dedicated early on. And then by the time they're 30, 40, 50, they have unlimited possibilities to get into what they want to do, because they have taken the time to invest in themselves, to get the skill sets that they need, to go into an environment where they know more than everybody else. They're not just learning that certain niche. They're learning everything. They're learning, how to run a business, how to have all these hats on. And at the end of the day, they might not be a master at one thing, but they know they're a jack of all trades. And because you're a jack of all trades, then you can get in and you can do more with that that ability, because you can shift better. If you're just good at, say, I don't know, throwing a baseball, and then tomorrow morning they're like, oh, you can't throw a baseball anymore. Like, you can only throw a football, but you can't throw a football because you're not good at throwing football. You can only throw a baseball. I don't know. Just an analogy. I don't know if that does anything for you or not, but and the mindset thing too. Here's if whether you're an employee or a business owner, how are you changing, your work environment or the work environment you're going in every day, and are you subscribing to the old mindset and the negative mindset that affects your day to day and your how I would say how successful you are, because if you're negative every day, that's gonna weigh on you. We all know that young peppy new worker that comes in to a company and they're just so excited to start their career and blaze a path to success, and once they get 1 year under the belt or 2 years under the belt or 3 years where they become an experienced employee, now all of a sudden they've turned into that old employee that just sits in the corner and complains about everything. The best way to change the world is to change yourself. Look to change yourself before you want to change the world, because if I come into a work environment every day positive and you're negative, the ability for me to affect you is minuscule. I read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People recently, and how he explains it in the book is your circle of influence versus the circle that you can't influence. So when you try to affect that circle that you have no influence on, you're just taking all this energy, all this mindset to change something you're never going to move. But if you try to change your circle, which is smaller, and your circle of influence, and you can make that bigger. So when you make that bigger, you're actually making the circle of influence that you can't change smaller. Focus on yourself. Don't try, to change the world before you can get important enough to change something. Because at the end of the day, if I'm Greg Behling with no influence and I don't have status, who am I to go on Instagram and complain about something about, the latest politics or, the economy? Who's going to listen to me? Nobody. So change yourself before you change the world. Because if you change yourself and you might start affecting other people, that's the best way to change the world. So, all right. So how I want my format to be, what I'd like to get into, is this is a monologue, obviously. I just want to, get an intro to how this podcast is going to be, what to expect. Please come back and listen. It'd be absolutely lovely. But I want to go over when I'm interviewing. It's going to be an interview style. I want to cover, what you wanted to do in school versus, what you expected to do in school. and then, going from there, what you thought was available in the job, or like, the job prospects or the field, versus what was actually available, and then what you actually experienced. If everything was super easy, everything was hard, you didn't do anything at all, you grinded like, an absolute dog, because being truthful to yourself will maybe, make you realize, oh, like, yeah, I didn't try that hard. Like, I don't know, for example, me. I worked really hard in high school, took a bunch of high school classes, AP classes to apply credits to college. And then I just didn't, it took a little bit of work to like transfer those AP credits over to like college. I didn't do any of that. I probably could have shaved like a year off college, saved some money, saved some time. But I was lazy at the end of the day. You live and you learn. But you got to take responsibility for that. So yeah, I want to get into all that, expectations versus reality. I want to get into the job specifics. I'd like to see, did you change your field? Once you got into field, did you see like what made you not like it? What made you like it? Did you have to pivot your formal education to get a job that you wanted? Or did you just get into the education that you got into? You were like 2 years into it and you're like, I don't really like this. Or did you, did you just self-educate? Did you read a bunch of books, and did you watch a bunch of YouTubes? And, shout out to YouTube. There's so much it's so undervalued realistically. Like, you can literally learn anything on YouTube. I'm not a mechanic by trade. I have now changed out 3 head gaskets on a Subaru, which is a pretty involved, I would say, mechanical thing to do on a car. You got to basically tear the whole engine apart. The only thing left in the engine bay is the short block. So YouTube, watched it maybe 2-3 times, paused it when I was like working on it, like watched it again, like, oh, like, am I supposed to take this apart? How do I take this apart? So I shout out like to all of the people that grind on YouTube and post stuff. Some people are trying to do it for fame. Other people are just like, hey, this is a pain in the ass to do. This is how you do it. I don't want anybody else to go through like the hassle that I have. So next time you're doing something that, is a pain and you don't really see the resources out there, throw it on YouTube. It's great. It's a great tool. It doesn't get used enough. I just started using it to get in a business mindset. So go look up, stop using it to watch, watch videos, Tanner Jones. No, but use it for education. Not a lot of people, they just use it for entertainment, but they forget to use it for education. So I also want to get into like who influenced you, how your culture was at work, how your work hours were you expected to work long hours? Did you just work long hours to try to get ahead? What was your pay range? I think a lot of people in the U.S. don't like to talk about what they get paid. Some people who are just don't get paid a lot don't like to talk about it because they like to live lavishly, and they want people to think they make a lot more than they do. Other people don't want to shove it in people's faces. But I think, if you're open and honest about, what you get paid, people are like, damn, like, I want to make that. Or like, man, that's what you make doing that job? Like, yeah, I could do that. And it creates transparency for other people in the same industry that aren't getting that pay. And, at the end of the day, you not telling people how much you make isn't helping you or the other person. Because maybe, I'm making $200,000 to do this job. I think it's a lot. And then the person next to me is like, I make $400,000 doing that same job, dude. You're getting screwed. So I think transparency is key to not only like helping other people realize what's possible, but also to create equality, of like the same kind of job, for like the same kind of job field. So yeah, I want to get into that. I want to get into pathways and opportunities, which is a big one, I think. A a lot of people don't have a long-term mindset. A lot of people go into a job with, hey, I want to make X amount in my first couple years. And that's all they think about. Well, guess what? Where are you going to go from there? How do you go up? How do you go up on the ladder? Do you got to go sideways to go up? Can you go up at all? How old are the people in your industry? Are the people that are managers above you 30? Are the people that managers are above you 70? That's something to look into. What are the opportunities? Like, are companies telling you you're going to get ahead? Well, ask employees, because a company is always going to say, yeah, we hire from within. We hire from within. We promote from within. But I can guarantee you, if you talk to people in the company, if you ask them, hey, do these people promote from within? They'll tell you yes or no. They know. Because, people get jaded all the time. Either hiring out, like outsourcing, they're either outsourcing work or they're hiring, promotions from outside of the company. I think pathways and opportunities are super, super, super important to think about when you're taking a job. You can take a job making a lot of money, but where are you going to be in 5 years from now? Like, where does that path lead you? Are you going to be in the same job 5 years from now? Or are you going to be, three rungs on the ladder ahead? So think about that when you're taking a job, and that's what I want to get into with people. Hey, what were you told when you got this job, and where were you at? 5 years or 3 years, however long they've been in the industry. Where do you think you should be at versus where you're actually at? And then people can evaluate whether it's the person or it's the company is why, they're not further ahead, whatever. I just want people to be honest, and I want people to be open about where they're at in life. Because like I said, I think it helps not only you, I think it helps other people. And then lastly, I want to get into like the skill sets and training. What kind of skill sets, what kind of training that's available out there. What you can do to, better yourself to if there's a management position, what do you think you have to get the management position? I want to get like people of different levels on here, entry level jobs, mid-level jobs, senior level jobs. Hopefully once we get big enough, we can interview CEOs and whatnot. But I want to also keep this to, the everyday job. I don't want it to be somebody making billions and billions and millions of dollars. I want people to be living happy lives. Not everybody's a real estate investor. Not everybody is a banker. Not everybody is a Wall Street guy. Not everybody invests. Not everybody understands that kind of stuff. So, I want to get, hey, if you're looking to be a nurse, what does it take to be a nurse? What do they make? In the nursing field, I could either just be like a regular nurse at a hospital, or I could do travel nursing. And travel nursing, I could make way more money. But then I'm dealing with contracts and I'm moving all the time, and I'm uprooting my life every 12 weeks. Or I could get a job that's close by, but it has to be in a different area code or something like that. This is all stuff I want to cover. How's your social dynamic? I think that's massive. Do you want to live in the city, or do you want to live do you want to live out in the country? Did you have to move for your job, or did you just move because that's what best suited you? A lot of people don't want to move, or a lot of people do want to move, and I think that's important. That you need to look at the job opportunities in the area that you want to live at. Not only how far it is, if you live, say I live in Canonsburg, if I want to drive to Pittsburgh, yeah, it's only 20 minutes, but, that's an hour commute every day with traffic. So, just think about that kind of stuff, when you're applying for jobs, where you want to live and, how you want to live. And I also think it's important to go over, how you shifted, or, how you acclimated to either new opportunities or, bubble projects are great. If you get offered a bubble project at a job, take it. You may never know how that skill could affect you down the road. Acquiring new skills. How did you say no? I don't want to do it because I don't really see a benefit in it. And that's way more work for like the same pay, but it's a bubble project. You're going to be done in 6 weeks, and now you've met and networked with like maybe say 7 people that you never would have known before that project. So, yeah, I want to get into all that. I want to get into how people grew professionally over the years. What kind of certifications they got, what kind of furthering education they got. Did you have mentors, or did the company pay for your education, or did you just go back to get education because you wanted to? I know personally for me, I think that I really, really did progress and I would say matured a lot professionally. At the beginning of my profession, I was very, very childish, super childish, and I'm grateful for my managers that dealt with it. I was a good worker, but I just like complained a lot and threw a little temper tantrum when stuff went wrong. The job I had was like super frustrating and very, very overwhelming at times. So I think I got the emotions get the better of me. I would say that, I don't know, I never really had a mentor. I looked up to my director a lot, at the end of my career. And I think I really, really matured a lot during that time, just having, that presence of like, hey, this is how I handle a situation. Not flying off the handle at the first, at the first thought of your head, like, oh, we need to do X, Y, Z. Like, no, like, sit, think about it. Okay, yeah, I thought about it, and, I'm now calm, cool, collected. This is what I think we should do. So yeah, I'll get into me. We'll do the monologue for me. This will be, I'll interview myself. Hi, Greg. How are you doing? No, I'm just messing. So I just want to let you guys know my background. For anybody out there, chemistry, this is going to be chemistry related. I'm going to dumb it down so everybody can listen to it and get some understanding of how the pharmaceutical industry works. But if you're a chemist out here and you're not looking to get your master's degree, or you're not looking to get your PhD, this is what I've seen available. I'm not saying that's the only thing out there, but I would say the jobs widely available for anybody graduating with a chemistry degree or a bio degree, you can come out and basically get a QC job anywhere. With any company, there's a lot of jobs out there. It's not that great paying. Respectively, I think personally that chemistry is one of the hardest degrees out there to get. It requires a lot of sacrifice. I studied my ass off in school, and I got it decent. I had like a 3.4 GPA. It wasn't the smartest kid in the world, but I also wasn't dumb. So I'd say I had like a very good knowledge of chemistry. My field of choice was definitely organic chemistry. My aspirations at the time were to go and get my PhD in like synthetic derivation for like organic chemistry. I ended up getting married right after college. One thing led to another. I didn't go back and get my PhD. Wouldn't change it for the world. Love you, Carrie. Shout out to Carrie, my wife. She deals with a lot. But I mean, this is what it's about, though. I coming out of high school, college, getting into the real world. There's a huge gap, and that's why this is called the Gap Podcast. I think there's a huge gap from high school to college, and from college to the real world. Or if you're going to vocational school, or if you just want to go and get some certifications, there's always that, like, you don't know the real world until you get into it, paying a bunch of bills. If you would have told me every day, hey, you got to come home, cook dinner, go to the gym, do all these things, and then like still have time to like hang out with your wife afterwards, I'm like, yeah, we're right. Like, shout out to all those people that are like, taking care of kids, cooking, cleaning, going and getting their like furthering their education for like either a master's or like a PhD, or like even if you're just self-educating yourself, like shout out to you guys, man. I keep pretty healthy. I go to the gym about 1 hour every day. If I'm feeling frisky, like 2 hours. I try to keep it between that, but I mean, lifting is something I fell in love with. Being healthy is something I fell in love with. I don't know. There's that one meme that it's like, when you tell your mom that you're healthy, you go to the gym every day, and it's like you're 300 mgs of caffeine every day. That's me. I've got addicted to pre-workout caffeine, so I don't know how healthy I am, but I'd like to think that I'm healthy. Eating whole foods, whatnot. But yeah, anyways, we'll get off of that tangent. So I'm a chemist by trade, by schooling. Worked for Mylan Pharmaceuticals for 7 years. Before that, I worked at Sears, just the holding corporations, just like the retail Sears. So in that, I actually worked that job out of high school, in the summers, and then into college. I worked all throughout college. I paid for my own education. Good for all you guys that had parents that save for you. Don't hold anything against you, and don't let anybody make you feel bad for that. But I paid for my own college. My mom and dad couldn't really afford it. And it's nothing they can do about it. But I found a way to get into college. I found a way to pay for it. Didn't know what an unsubsidized loan was at the time, but I do now. Getting 6% interest the whole time I was in school. That was fun. I probably could have paid those off working all through school, but I had some fun skiing. So, you live and you learn. I don't regret. Just learn from. But yeah, so I sold at Sears. I sold appliances. I worked off 0%. I made $0 an hour. I worked off full commission. I sold anything and everything, but my main section was appliances. So like stoves, refrigerators, microwaves, dishwashers, washer dryers. Love selling mattresses. You made 10% on mattresses. So $3,000 mattress and 10% of that. It's pretty nice. Sold TVs. You didn't really make much off TVs, which is why Sears stopped selling TVs, is because we actually usually lost money on TV sales. It was just like one of those things that draw customers into the store. I thought that was like a pretty interesting thing for me working at Sears. Is like you have like their software that shows you like what they paid for, what they sell it, and like what their profit margin is. And for appliances, like we like to stay around a 30% profit margin. So like our lower end stuff, you didn't make that much profit. You'd sell a $550 fridge and the cost was $500. But you sold, a high end fridge, the cost was $3,000, the cost to the consumer, but the cost to the company was like only say like $1,500. So the spread was like way bigger. And that was true with like large TVs, like your 80-inch TVs. Spread was like amazing on those. Like it was like a $1,500 profit. But like your 20 inches, you sold them like $50 under the cost to the company. So that kind of opened my eyes to like the business world. But at the time I didn't really like want to do that. I wanted to do chemistry. I was super passionate about chemistry. I love it. Still to this day, I love it. I think I said this earlier, but like just scientific advancement. I mean, this computer, this microphone, these headphones, the sunglasses that you use, everything is a scientific advancement. And the more people understand science, the better our lives get. So our we live a pretty good life. If you live in the U.S., we have running water, lights. If you're living in a shack, you're still living good. So just keep that mindset too. Always remember, somebody out there has it worse. I think actually a good diagram I saw that like reminds you of that is like someone in a wheelchair like looking at someone that walks, and someone that walks, it's like looking at somebody who's on a bike, and then someone who's on a bike that looks at somebody who's driving like a Ferrari, and then someone who's driving a Ferrari looks at somebody who has like, you know, a helicopter, and then someone who has a helicopter looks at somebody who has a jet. There's, you know, you can always look at somebody in their life and be jealous of it, or you can just be grateful for yours. And I think if you're grateful, I think it goes a lot farther in life. So just keep that in mind. But anyways, getting back to it, I did a lot for Sears. You know, I made a lot of money. I learned a lot. You know, and then I went into, you know, science. I got a job at Mylan Pharmaceuticals, worked there for 7 years. My first job, I was just a regular chemist. So I actually got hired to be an HPLC chemist. So what is an HPLC chemist? That stands for high powered liquid chromatography. Essentially what we did is we took a flask, we mixed up the active pharmaceutical in the flask, or if you're on the finished product side, the finished product, you created a solution. That's what we call a solution. You then make a mobile phase. A mobile phase is another solution. That solution is made to carry your injection or your sample injection. So this is an automated thing. So you put a mobile phase up on it, and the HPLC is the actual instrument. So you have the actual instrument, and then you have the detector. You take your sample, whatever you wanted to prepare to analyze. You put a small amount in a vial. You load that vial into the instrument. The instrument then automatically has like this method that is you know, you've programmed to run, and it'll take the mobile phase. The mobile phase runs through the system. You have a column on it. That column is, you know, there's a lot of science that goes into it, but I'm just going to dumb it down. That column is like meant to separate. Like, so say you have, you know, we'll just take two elements. You have, say, carbon and oxygen. It's meant to separate the carbon and the oxygen so they come off at different retention times. You know, when they hit the detector, you'll see the oxygen peak, and then you'll see the carbon peak. Just try to make it easy for people that don't understand chemistry. So that's what an HPLC chemist is. Every day you're coming in, you're getting a schedule. That schedule involves you preparing samples. You then come in, make a mobile phase, make your samples, prepare your samples. And that involves, you know, weighing them, preparing them, you know, dissolving everything. They could be shaken, it could be stirred. There's a lot that goes into it, like the method. That's like a method validation thing. So that goes into it, and then on the back end of it, like once you prepare the samples, once you load the instrument, once you make the instrument method, and you get everything on like the HPLC side to like automate itself to like run, you're then going to collect the data. That data is then analyzed, and like once you're analyzed it, you have, if you don't understand, you have standards that you prep, and you know what the concentration of the standards are. So with HPLC, you're only looking for purity and potency. Purity is how pure the substance is. Potency is how much is in the labeled amount. So like with active pharmaceutical, if I'm putting 20 mgs of fluorazepam, if I put 20 mgs of fluorazepam in that flask, there should be 20 mgs of fluorazepam there. So I'm creating this standard that I know what the concentration of that standard is. I'm shooting that 6 times to create a curve. I'm then shooting my unknown sample against my standards. That standard is saying, hey, this is what 20 mgs should look like. When this unknown goes across and it gets analyzed, and it goes against that curve of standards. It'll then use that data to say like how much area is under, you know, that peak. And then it creates, you know, okay, there's, you know, 20 mgs. So, you know, it's 100%. So you're saying there's a 100% label pure on that drug. So with purity, what you're doing is you're shooting a standard, but then you're creating a super concentrated sample to see what impurities are there. You're then comparing the standards compared to those impurities, and what you're trying to get is to see like anything that we know is bad for your body that is a part of that synthetic derivation of either, you know, the original raw material aspect of it, or if you have degradation on the finished product side, you know, so when it goes through the when you're actually producing, you know, the big batches in the manufacturing, you know, because, you know, heat, the mixing, all that kind of stuff, you know, and realistically, a lot of the times you're just looking for like just mess ups on the procedures. So like on the manufacturing side, like if you don't code it properly, or, you know, all this kind of stuff, it can mess with purity. It can mess with potency. And so on the active pharmaceutical side, we're looking to see, okay, hey, they said it was this, it is this. You know, the potency's there, the purity's there. It's not a super dirty. It's not a super dirty like pharmaceutical ingredient, or, you know, so we can go ahead and use it in the manufacturing side. The finished product side is saying, hey, we did the manufacturing according to the method, and that's called like a batch record. It's like it goes through like all the stages of like what they're supposed to be doing in the manufacturing side, and so like they'll go through that, you know, and they test to see, okay, is the purity and potency on that what it's supposed to be. So if you have a pill and it's labeled 10 milligrams of flurazepam, is there 10 milligrams of flurazepam? With active pharmaceutical ingredient, it should always be 100%, because like unless they didn't, you know, unless you get the wrong thing, or like you know, a lot of that is if it's not correct, it's a human error. But on the finished product side, you are looking to see, hey, did this mix properly? You know, do we have some active pharmaceutical ingredient that didn't get mixed in? So some pills would be high and some pills would be low, you know. And if you have, say, like something like you're only supposed to take 1,000 milligrams a day, and you're getting a pill that, you know, is supposed to be a 500 milligram pill, and you're getting, you know, 700 in that pill, and you take 2 pills, and you're now above what you're allotted for the day of like that ingredient that is actually going in and doing what you want it to do. So that's just like I'm trying to like kind of dumb it down, but keep it like the integrity of like the chemistry there, for like all my chemistry friends, and then for my people that aren't. I hope I did a good job for that. You know, and just to let you know, there are like 3 other departments besides HPLC. That there was wet chem, and there was dissolution, and then there was gas chromatography. Wet chem did like a lot of other tests, like to see if it was like the right size of particle, because, you know, it's kind of crazy what goes into the science behind how drugs work, and then also then to make that work in a large batch. It's kind of like when you make cookies. Has anybody ever, like, you know, made a single batch of cookies and it tastes great, and then you make a batch that's you know, and then you try to double that, and it's like, oh, like this doesn't taste nearly as good. The same kind of thing happens like with the chemistry aspect. Is like there's a lot of science that goes into the like mixing and how certain things mix, and if they mix properly, and then coding. You know, there's a lot that goes into it. So wet chem would make sure like the particle size is right. You know, they would do melting points, they would do IRs, they would do a lot of like the tests that didn't take all day. Like HPLC is like it's an 8-hour day, like no shorter, usually longer. But wet chem had like a million other tests. They did like, you know, we had one test, they would have, you know, 5 or 6 in a day. And then dissolution, they were kind of like LC, but they had like one test a day. But their test was to see if it dissolved when it should. So the dissolution of the drug. So if you've ever heard of like ER tablets, or like DR, which stands for extended release or delayed release, those have a coating on it, so they get released at certain times, and it's important that they get released when they should. So essentially, that's what this solution did. Is they would make sure that the pills dissolve in, say, your body, like your gastric stomach, how it's supposed to. But yeah, so, and then gas chromatography was a lot like LC, but just stuff on the gas side. So that's what I did every day. I did a chemist role for, I think, three or 4 years. Then, I got promoted to chemist 2, and then I got promoted to senior chemist, and then I got promoted to team lead. The team lead, I did a lot of the investigational side. It was pretty cool. I learned a lot from that. Learned how the FDA worked and what they looked for, what they didn't. What they cared about, what they didn't. It changed every day. But when I was there, they were really, really into the data, and how well you labeled the data. If it was reproduced, that was big. So they didn't want to see just any random injections. Everything was clearly labeled. If you did setups, you could clearly tell it was a standard. Because with an LC, you had to make sure it was running properly before you actually ran your desired samples. Again, pretty hard to generalize it and keep it super specific, where somebody who's a chemist is gonna be oh yeah, that's exactly what we did. So I can't wait to have somebody on that's actually from Milan that can maybe go a little bit more in depth, and at that point, if that's not something that you are like to do, you can kind of just cruise over that episode or whatnot. But yeah, so, and then right now, that ended. Milan shut down, so right now I am jobless. Not jobless. I started my own business, and that's why I was talking about the mindset. I actually ended up flipping a house that we bought, and about 3 years ago, and I flipped it. Did all the work myself. A lot of stuff I learned as I was going. Called some friends. Some friends helped me. Jeff Klingon and Mike Zada out there. Shout out to them. But it really set me up for my next step in life. We lost our jobs. We got severance for a year. I got a couple surgeries within that year. Had my daughter. Wouldn't change what I did for the world. Got to spend 4 months, with her, getting paid. I ended up getting my ACL fixed. And now I am getting into real estate investing. It's something I've always wanted to do. I figured why not do it sooner rather than later. So this podcast is gonna, hopefully cover the journey through that. I'll give you some updates of where I'm at, how I've evolved from doing it, how my network's evolved, who I talk to. I'm sure I'll have some of those guys from Future Flipper on here, which is the program I joined. But yeah, all right, guys. That's it. I know I rambled a little bit. I want this to be a free-flowing. I don't want to do too many edits. I don't want to do too many cuts. I want it to come to you straight forward. And, if I mess up, I mess up. If I ramble, I ramble. But I want it to be authentic. I want you to see, the authentic me, the authentic other person. And I want you to, really, really enjoy this podcast. Something easy to listen to. Something that, maybe you'll learn a little bit about a career that you've never known about. Yeah. Anyways, guys, this is Greg Behling signing off of the Gap Podcast. Thank you for coming, and have a great day.